Want to know what it feels like to be a first-generation American? You feel guilty. If you don't know what it means to be a first generation, it means to be the first generation to be born in a specific country, as in your parents migrated to a different country and then you were the first one to be born there. I will be speaking as a first generation American. And the reason for the guilt, for the most part, revolves around money. And to better help explain what I mean, here's Casey Neistat talking about life problems versus money problems.
Rich or poor, we all face these problems that I'll call life problems. Life problems are things like finding happiness and finding love and a sense of fulfillment in your life and a sense of purpose maybe in your career, etc. These are life problems. These are problems we all, rich or poor, encounter. Money won't solve these problems. But when you're broke, on top of, and I mean that literally and figuratively, on top of these problems, you've got money problems. And money problems are things like, how am I gonna pay rent? How am I gonna pay for food? I'm sick and can't afford to go to the doctor. I can't get a job because I can't drive to work. I don't have any nice clothes to wear to that job interview, things like that.
Casey then goes on to say that a lot of the time people can't focus on life problems because of money problems. And that really makes sense to me because what's more important? Finding food to literally survive or going out on a date with a pretty girl and finding love? Clearly, you need the food more than you need that, that date, that girl. You know what I mean? And so as a first generation American, these money problems were better taken care of because I was born in a safer and tremendously richer country than the poorer countries that my parents were born in. Not that my parents never struggled here or I didn't struggle here, but it's nothing compared to what it would have been like if they stayed in their respective countries. And sometimes I can't help but feel guilty because when you start comparing lives, like for example, I remember being a kid and the only thing that I had to worry about was like a spelling bee or looking cool. And then hear my parents and other people who came to this country talk about how they had to get to school, climb mountains and go through rivers and fight demons. Okay, I'm clearly joking with that last part, but you know what I mean. You clearly had it better. Even as teenagers, the idea of my biggest problem or possibly your biggest problem being like, what elective should I pick? Should I join the soccer team? Should I join the football team? Should I join maybe the tennis team? Or I hope my schedule lines up with my friend's schedule. While at the same age, my parents or your parents in their countries had to work long hours to provide for their families or are preparing to make the journey to America and abandon literally everything that they know. It feels like they deserve the life that you have and they worked for that life but never got it. And now as an adult, the guilt I feel has exponentially grown because for a lot of families that come here, the American dream is to have a giant house with a giant front yard and a giant backyard, to have the nicest cars. But as you get older, you start to realize it's not that easy. And then on top of that, you think, oh shoot, my parents are getting older. My grandparents are getting older and dying. My siblings are getting older and you're nowhere near where you thought you were gonna be. And you start to feel like time is running out. And look, if you have good parents, which I assume most people do. If you don't, I'm sorry about that. But if you have good parents, I'm sure all they want for you is to be okay in life, for you to enjoy a better life than they had. And there's a famous saying, comparison is the thief of joy, which I have been doing this entire video, but you can't help but compare lives because your entire life, you're somewhat told by your parents that you're supposed to do better than them. And look, I don't want to get political or controversial because I'm sort of in both camps of the United States, like political spectrum, sphere, whatever you want to call it when it comes to like the economy and how out of whack everything seems. Where one side says, if you just work hard, you're gonna succeed. And then the other side says, well, we have it harder than the previous generations financially, so we can't get ahead as fast as they did. I feel like I'm a combination of the two where I say, I believe we have it financially harder, but that just means you have to work harder to get ahead and find success. And I only bring that up because everything seems like it's taking longer to get, to get your own apartment, then to get your own home, then to get your own car, your health insurance, your car insurance, to be able to pay your own things. But do you see what I mean? There's so many things that go through your head about life, and the first generation only has the privilege to look at life because of the sacrifice that was made by our parents. The previous generation didn't necessarily care about agendas or what was fair. They cared about providing food for you, a roof over your head, making sure that you were healthy. And as a first generation American, and maybe you can relate to this as a first generation child in whatever country you were born in, you're scared to waste their sacrifice. and it weighs on you constantly. And look, I don't want this video to be all doom and gloom because it's been that way this entire video so far. In the same way I feel guilty, I also feel grateful for the sacrifices before I was born and after I was born. I feel proud to say I am only here because of my parents. And I don't know if that constant struggle between feeling guilty and feeling grateful ever goes away, but I can say that both fuel my desire for a better life and to make my parents proud. And if I can offer one piece of advice to the previous generation that migrated to whatever country, please don't hold your sacrifice above the heads of your children to the point that monetary success is seen as more valuable than a peaceful and happy life. And to the first generation Americans or wherever you were born, please don't take their sacrifice in vain. I'm seeing a lot more on social media of middle schoolers and high schoolers dropping out, disrespecting teachers, disrespecting their parents, committing crimes. And I can't help but feel embarrassed because we're meant to be good citizens and be the first step in potentially, generational wealth and prosperity, if God lets us see that. And so before ending this video, I like to just say, I know that first generation Americans or, wherever you were born in aren't the only ones that feel this way. I know there are many people who struggle, who were born in a powerful country, in a strong country, wherever. Life is unfair, and I just wanted to voice my opinion because I know so many of us feel this way. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. I'm so hungry.